Welcome to the garden. Today we're talking about carrots. How to grow them, how to plant the seeds, and how to use them up. So we got a decent looking carrot here. And I know it's ready to harvest when you get these dead leaves. When the greens start to die, it's time to pull them up. So you want to get a firm grip and pull them up by the tops. And then I like to pop them in some water just to rinse them out. And if the greens break off, it's not a huge deal because we're going to get in here and harvest all these carrots today. So these really good looking greens we're actually going to save and throw it into our stock along with some carrot roots. You could give these to your cats or dogs if you have those. Or you could throw them in your salads. They're really tasty. You're going to get different sizes. I mean, this one didn't really go very far, but that's okay. It'll still taste fine. So we're going to use these today in a vegetable stock. And we're just going to prep our veg, saving these greens that look nice, and then cutting up our carrots. The more surface area you get, the faster they're going to release their flavors into the broth. And you can add all sorts of stuff. We have onion here that we grew in the garden, and we're actually going to use the entire onion here, greens and all. Most people would probably go about this far and call it, but watch out for dirt inside the leaves, especially down at the bottom. But just, you can tear these up or chop them up however you like. But the greens are going to add the nice onion flavor. And we don't have to waste any part of the plant, except for like the roots. I don't know what to do with those roots, so cut those off, not a problem. Well, our bowl's filling up here, so we're going to throw a pepper in there. It's not traditionally used in broths, but I like a little sweet pepper in my broths. It adds a little complex to the flavor. We're going to add celery. This is our homegrown celery. And just like the carrots, we're just going to process this down with some of the leaves too. The leaves are good. And it doesn't have to be a perfect chop because we're just going to boil this. So we'll throw in some of the leaves. So there's our veg. And we're also adding herbs. I like to add lots of parsley, thyme, and rosemary. These are very aromatic and they add a really nice complexity to the broth. You could add garlic. Basically any vegetable you've got, you can add it. So we could saute these in a little oil or just throw them straight in your pot of boiling water to extract the goodness. And in a couple hours, you'll have a delicious broth. Looks like this. This stuff is excellent. I use it all the time. Every time I'm cooking some kind of rice, you can always add a little bit more flavor if you cook it in your vegetable broth. The first time I ever did this, I thought maybe the vegetables still had some flavor in them, and you could certainly eat them, but they're basically flavorless. I was so surprised at how much of the goodness is extracted into the broth. I mean, you can see the color here. The color's going to vary based on what you put in it. We've used a lot of like celery greens and parsley here, so it's a little greenish, but it should be a green to gold color. a nice mild flavor. So that's how we turn our veg into broth. Now if you buy store-bought carrots, you can plant them in the ground and they'll go straight to flower. They're not going to grow any more root, but they will produce flowers. And once the flowers dry on the pods, the seeds you just twist off. Let me find some good ones here. Just kind of getting rid of the chaff. But the seeds, here's a great one here. They look like tiny little like parsley seeds almost. That's these ones here. So they are quite small and they're kind of like fuzzy. So we sow those directly in the ground, and we want to overseed so that we're going to grow just way too many and then thin them out later, because you don't need a whole ton of carrots unless you're going to blanch them and freeze them, because they will not keep for more than a year. But all these greens are good to eat. I like to mix these up with chives and things and feed them to my cats. I've got a whole batch in the freezer ready for winter, for when the garden quits. So we're going to continue to pull our carrots. You may get some oddities like this little guy, and they do often split, but it's not a big deal. If they split, they're still edible. They don't look as great, but they'll be fine. And it's probably because of too much water. The real trick to carrots is a nice sandy soil. So the experts who grow massive carrots, they actually grow in basically 100% sand, and then they take out little cores, you know, like little tubes all the way down into the sand, and those they fill with compost, and that's what the carrots grow in. So they absorb that rich compost, and they hit the sand and they stop growing their roots. They grow these little tiny roots into the sand, but the main taproot stays in the compost, and that's how they get the extra large veg. So I hope you give carrots a grow. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.